Hey guys! So every once in a while, I kind of like to go through the comments and just see what people are talking about. Like this comment here. I went to the range last weekend and had 2 failures to go into battery, but the gun was dry, so... it was like, so what do you expect? Well, made me really think, my Prodigy, I normally run pretty wet. But what would happen if I ran it dry? Especially since if you've been watching for a while, that you know that I've shown this Prodigy a lot of love. I've done a lot of polishing and chamber reaming and upgrading and the whole 9 yards. So what would happen if I ran it dry? How far could I get in the test if it was dry? Okay, well, let's start with, let's define what dry is. Well, I'm going to assume, based off of this comment, that they didn't take brake clean and spray it down to degrease it completely and then put it up and then went to the range afterwards. Now, let's assume that dry is that they put a light lube after they cleaned it and then they put it up, and we'll call that dry. Well, what I will do is I'll just wipe it down completely at the range with a dry paper towel and run it dry. Let's go to the range. Since the Prodigy was dry, based off of the comments, it had been lubed at some point. It just wasn't wet, which seems to be what these kind of like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe it all down. I'm going to run a bore snake through the barrel just because, well, I'd rather have my barrel be nice and everything, but that shouldn't affect whether the rest of it really runs. So, but for the most part, we're going to have everything nice and dry. Okay, as you can see, I got any and all excess oil, for considering how much time I just spent on it, removed. Now we're going to put her back together. We'll get right back to the video, but just needed to do a shameless plug really quick. I just created a Patreon page and I'm just asking for a little bit of help. Minimum tier, $3 a month, pretty easy, doesn't take much. I don't promise much, but whatever you can help, I would greatly appreciate it. Everything should have the thinnest layer of lubrication, considering it as dry. I mean, without just spraying brake clean on it. Now for the test, I'm going to use a 124 grain full metal jacket. These are remanufactured rounds that I purchased from LAX out of Salt Lake City. And I'm just going to keep going until I get my first malfunction. All right, so the most I can test up to is 454. $454 rounds. And we're back. Now, some of you might be asking, hey nobody, what's the point? And the point is really simple. I really wanted to check to see how well my Prodigy will do after I've done all this work figuring out what the bugs are and hiccups and then going through and doing the upgrades that I wanted, and I wanted to see how reliable it could be. And also to prove a point that if you have a Prodigy that isn't working the way that you want it to work, well, you can either send it back to Springfield and hope that they do it correctly. I mean, it's like usually Springfield does a really good job from everyone that I talk to. but it is something that you can also do and get it functioning really well, because I don't have any special training. I don't have any special tools. Everything that I have is stuff that I've gotten at the local hardware store or ordered off of Amazon. So if you want to figure out how to get your Prodigy functioning and working and running the way like mine does, which it ran pretty much like my Glocks do, which is fantastic, well, watch... Oh, this is a shameless plug. Watch some of my earlier videos on how I did it. That's what you should be doing anyway. If you haven't watched my earlier videos, watch my earlier videos. So, yeah, get your Prodigy running. And you know what? Even if your Prodigy does work really well, and you want to make sure it's super, super reliable, watch some of my earlier videos and see what little finesse things that you can do to make sure that your Prodigy is bulletproof. You just make it awesome. Make it awesome.